What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more True August. And we're returning to Breathing Room 2023. Thank you again to Sophia for providing this. And the penultimate track on the album is Certain Kind of Way, which sounds like the phrase you use when you're trying to specify or qualify the usage of a particular term. Like, this is such and such, either a one-word term or a phrase, and then you might say, well, at least in a certain kind of way, meaning seen from a certain angle, interpreted in a particular manner, and perhaps by implication or by extension, not applying in all circumstances where that word or phrase might be used. So it sounds, again, like a personal stipulation or clarification in terms of the usage of a concept, of a phrase, of an image. So obviously that would only be a starting point even if I'm seeing that the right way, and what is being seen or described or understood in a certain kind of way would obviously greatly influence whatever narrative or scene setting is at play here. So I'll try to catch what I can. This is True August. The track is Certain Kind of Way, and it's the second to last tune on his 2023 album, Breathing Room.
Those were
I like a lot. I feel like the sonics in this one, they almost have a quirky sound to them. It certainly feels like there's some different pieces which are being mixed and matched as the track unfolds. And it definitely has an electronic feel. There was a very buzzy metallic keyboard run in the center of the track. And not only were there some struck melodic sounds, whether they were chimes or bells or maybe xylophone or maybe a keyboard kit but done in the style of a xylophone or chimes, but there was a keyboard chord layer that almost reminded me a bit of Gary Newman. It wasn't quite so like throwback sci-fi like 80s sound, but it had that extraterrestrial, a bit of a cosmic feel to it at the top of the track. Again, his vocals very compelling. I do feel like, again, they have a bit of that echoed, or what's the right word, like filtered effect on them, maybe less so than in other tunes. He sounds like he's delivering the lines in almost like this dispassionate way, which is interesting because I didn't catch all the lyrics, but what I did catch, it sounds like he's referring to another person who at some time in the past used to make him feel a certain kind of way. And indeed, like, my thoughts on the title in advance, I was thinking about like narrowly defining what that way is, or the way that the words might apply in certain cases but not others. But it's almost like he's actually defining a particular feeling or circumstance from others, not so much like saying, well, there could be other cases where you use this word but it's not here. It's like he's basically saying, like, it might be complicated. The way in question might be complicated, but it's a certain kind of way. It also sounds like he's saying that whatever that way was is outside of his normal configuration, or it's outside of how he is normally inclined to be and feel given his personality or his disposition. But it sounds like maybe he didn't mind that, he didn't dislike that. And there's lines like, I know it's hard for you to stay, so it's maybe the other person who's pulled back or changed things such that now he's not feeling that kind of way. Even if it was outside his comfort zone, it sounds like he's either lamenting that or at least looking back and saying, it used to be like this, now it's not like this, and it's because of the withdrawing or receding of the other person, maybe. But yes, again, and that would again suggest a breathing room. It would suggest some sort of distance, physical and or emotional, and thus a distinction, a disparity between before and now. So without hearing more of the lines clearly or without more of the subtext, I don't quite know how to take it. But yeah, it sounds like he and this other person had something in a particular way, and that made him feel significant, or it was in some ways remarkable and beyond what he normally feels, beyond his comfort zone, but now it's fallen into a different scenario and he's reflecting on that. And, sonically it doesn't sound heavy or brooding, but of course there are many songs where a light and almost uplifting type of sound can be contrasted with lyrics that are indeed heavy or more emotionally complicated. So yeah, I don't quite know how to take it thematically, but I enjoyed, again, the mix of sounds, and as I said, there was a bit of an unusual or quirky sound to this one. So yes, a very consistent and solid album from start to finish. I've enjoyed every tune, and maybe one or two more than others, but definitely a very compelling album, and one that, when it began, I think there was one or two where I was like, oh, maybe I could hear this as a Savoy track if it was Paul's voice, though I think in both of those cases there was a sense that, like, man, I don't really hear it that way. So again, maybe that was based on my expectations in part, just, knowing his Wakhtar heritage. But by the time we're now getting to the end of the album, I feel like it is kind of its own thing. It's, he's doing something that is notable and quite good, but not something you would mistake for an Aha song written by Paul or a Savoy song written by Paul. So yes, I've enjoyed this journey. Once again, thank you to Sophia, also to General Puffball, who's been commenting, to Jeff, who mentioned, that this is something he was keen to talk about going back a year or two now, so it is nice to go through it. Do let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.